Well, good afternoon. It is sunny, so thank you for sitting and getting all this vitamin D with us. I'm Mark Wilson, Global Design Editor at Fast Company, and this is a panel on human-machine collaboration, which might have been a bad way of framing what I think it's really going to be about, which is how will AI change the way we work? And I hope that after this half hour is over, all of us walk away a little bit smarter about what the next 2 to 3 years looks like as AI gets sort of baked deeper and deeper into the tools we use. I'm here with, from the far side, Greg, Senior Director, Partner Engineering at Slack. We have Sam, the co-founder of New Computer and Dot. And then we have John, the head of Gen AI product at Canva. I think you're probably pretty familiar with these products, but you might not know New Computer, so I'll do a quick introduction. And Sam, you can correct me if I package it terribly. But New Computer is a company that's really looking at how computing changes as AI gets sort of baked into it. And Dot is a personal assistant. They launched, I don't know, probably a little over a year ago. And Dot remembers sort of everything you tell it and the people you know. And so if you are talking to Dot and you zoom out, you can actually see a timeline of your history and connections and things you've done. So I think what's really interesting about New Computer is they're looking not just at how does an assistant work, but really, how does an assistant contextualize your life? So as we get started, we all heard about AI assistants, and I think over the last 6 months especially, we've heard a lot about AI agents. And I think everybody agrees that AI is verging a little more agentic. But what is agentic AI behavior? I would like for us to agree on a definition quickly so we can get started.
Yeah, it was funny. I was on the way to the airport to come join everybody here for Create, and I actually needed to make a change to my boarding pass. So I was scrambling and actually went up to the desk to change it. And what did I see? But it was the Delta support agent. And maybe appreciate agents have actually been a part of our lives for a really, really long time. I think we try to think that it's some new different thing because we're talking about AI and technology. But really, it's about this concept of agency or enabling a person or a thing to actually act on your behalf. So there's everything from support agents all the way through sports agents, which have been doing this for a really long time. And really, we're just in an age of AI where the same thing is happening now, where ultimately we're able to actually offload more work or more cognitive overhead, more of our rote processes, to have AI actually help us with these things, not just as a tool, but also as somebody's or something acting on these end to end.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a fair, pretty fair definition, sort of an assistant that can actually take actions for you, right, on your behalf. Does anyone have any lingering piece to add about it?
I would probably add one thing, which is I think, so an assistant, it kind of maps more cleanly to a human relationship and a role that it might exist in the human world. Someone you talk to and who helps you kind of get clarity on what you actually want to do in a situation.
So it's more like a persona.
More like a persona. Whereas an agent I kind of see as something that works in the background. It's more like an embodied program that has the capacity to do action on your behalf. We already see this paradigm now where, in deep research, a ChatGPT extension, you talk to the ChatGPT assistant, and it can kick off a ton of web agents to go scour the internet and bring you back research. So I think this is some paradigm that we'll increasingly see in the future, which is like an assistant with whom you have a relationship then turns into something that can work with agents on your behalf.
Yeah, I think when I think about it, agents are multi-party, in a couple ways, right? Assistants generally is more one-to-one, you to an assistant. When you get into multi-party, agents can talk to each other. They can collaborate with each other at scale.
They can gossip.
They can, yeah, all day long. And then the second piece, they can also work with multiple humans at once. So it's not just agent to agent, it's agents to multiple humans in a shared space, wherever they're collaborating.
That's a big difference, right? Like
Huge,
an assistant
huge.
being like this one-on-one sort of literally a personal assistant,
Yeah.
right, that I have versus this thing that's suddenly talking to potentially my coworkers or my boss, right, or the public. And so I imagine that really opens up sort of the risks and also the benefits of what you do. Let's talk about, I think, Slack to start. How are you considering agentic behavior in Slack right now? I mean, to some extent, it feels like a very natural extension because I'm sort of barking at people all day on Slack about things that I need done or I should have done.
Well, I don't think I'd want to work with you on Slack. But yeah.
Scratch that from the record.
What's that?
Scratch that from the record.
Okay,
It's a damning
that's
statement from someone from Slack.
All right, don't bark at people on Slack. Yeah, so Slack, we got pretty lucky. We're a collaboration platform in an age when collaboration is more and more important. So we look at it in a couple ways. We launched Agentforce last year, which is really Oh, someone. Hey. Okay. Wow, didn't think we'd get any cheers, but thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. So what Agentforce is, it's really capitalizing on having not just that, like I mentioned before, one-to-one assistant, but having tens, hundreds of specific agents within your company, and really looking at how they can be responsible coworkers, how they can optimize your work. And then if you've used Slack, you may have seen some of these other features that I've launched. And that is really just optimizing every different aspect of Slack with AI. So whether you're in a file or a canvas, whether you're in a channel, whether you're working with an external company in a shared channel, really capitalizing on those use cases and kind of, focusing there. So that's been the past couple of years for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been exciting for sure.
Sam, I mean, Dot is an assistant. Does Dot take agency for your users?
Yeah, we view, again, the role of an assistant primarily as something that almost helps you think through your ideas, and that can have the capacity to take agency, but is something that presents you and with the options that it's found and helps talk you through kind of something, helps you achieve clarity. So Dot does have the capacity to go look at things on the internet without you asking and bring you things that you might find interesting. So yeah, for us, that definition of assistant not having agency isn't quite as clear. It's more like the assistant is there to help you get to clarity on something rather than just do work for you.
Yeah, I mean, in your example, Dot might do research for travel for me. It's easy to think a booking agent, right, would book me a ticket, but Dot will hopefully research and make connections I wouldn't have even sort of thought to ask. And that's the agency in Dot's case, you're saying.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, let's talk about Canva. I'm sure everybody caught this morning the sort of AI glow up at Canva. There's a lot we could go through there. Does Canva have an AI agent now? What do you even call that, right? You can basically do anything from that top bar now.
Yeah. Totally.
So what is it?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, one of the things I really, really love about working at and getting to build Canva is that we've just been very singular in our mission of empowering the world to design across a lot of different technology shifts. From cloud to mobile to AI. Now we're talking about agents, and really that vision that we have is actually completely independent of what technology is required in order to do it. Ultimately, we see technology, AI, as a way to accelerate people in expressing themselves, going from that idea to that final thing. And I think we definitely get excited about a world where agents are part of doing that as well. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of our job at Canva is to really live in the future, understand how all this technology is rolling out, and figure out the best ways of actually integrating that into our product in a way that then can be democratized for hundreds and hundreds of millions of users. So I think that a lot of what we saw today of taking our Magic Studio and letting you use it in a couple different ways through a more unified AI native experience, as well as through being able to use it at scale through our exciting new Sheets product. I think these are just some of the new ways that we're actually leveraging technologies that we've already built in new ways that actually help unlock capabilities. I think in the future, you can imagine a world where agents are also a big part of that, meeting people at the level of a goal that they're trying to accomplish, instead of at just a specific task that they're trying to do. I think what's also exciting about agents is this work doesn't all just happen within a singular tool set, but actually is going to happen across the products that you work with today.
Wait, when you say bring in an agent to sort of
Yeah.
help you think through a problem or a goal, could you spell that out a little bit more for me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, when you think of it, even within Canva, people do design because they have some broader job that they're trying to do. I'm, launching a new restaurant and I need to come up with a menu, or I'm launching a new product and I need to come up with my social marketing campaigns, or I'm a teacher and I'm trying to create my lessons plan. So really, design is something that actually helps you actualize what you're trying to do. What would it mean to actually help a user, certainly at that task level, but also at the level above that as well?
To me, the real challenge right now is the average person thinks AI can do anything, and then we quickly use these AI tools, and we learn they can do some things. But especially as agency gets involved, and AIs can sort of do thinking on our behalf or take actions on our behalf, I feel like that expectation gap only sort of, grows, where it's yes, I would like you to book me a trip. Also, figure out what I will like most within this, and I expect I will love this whole experience of my vacation. Nothing will go wrong, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you balance expectations within your products? Like how are you sort of becoming, I guess, inspiring your users, but also kind of like putting the guardrails on, like, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do?
Yeah. I think certainly with Canva, like very fundamentally, we see what we're doing as helping actually augment and accelerate our users, who are ultimately the ones underwriting what they're creating to put it out into the world. I think that we certainly are not trying to automate creativity or in any sense of the word, but actually empower the person who is to be in a driver's seat with a little bit of a new set of tools. I think that the challenge for actually starting to take action on behalf of users is the fact that there is an inherent expectation that if things go wrong, I have some way to correct it or some way to change it. I think that that's one of the bigger, broader challenges being worked out in the agent ecosystem in general is how do you actually create the right trace for what's happening? How do you actually give users the right intervention steps along the way? Because if you just kind of hit a automate button and just sit back, you don't really know what's going to happen. So I think there's some core user experience problems and some underlying technical problems that still need to be figured out there.
So like we need an emergency stop button as it's like ordering us 1,000 mattresses
right,
or whatever. Yeah.
We think about this a lot, and one thing we've noticed kind of as we've worked on Dot and designed things is that it's a natural thing for people and users who are interacting with a system that is more embodied, so has more of a personality, and maybe you speak to it in natural language like you would a human, to map its capabilities to the human who would be in the equivalent job function. So if you're talking to an AI customer support agent on a flight booking website, you assume that it has all the same capabilities that a human would who has that specific job. So for the people who are designing these systems, I think it's quite important to make sure that human expectations of those capabilities map up to what the agents can actually do. And to be cautious as well about not always choosing an embodied form factor. So an example is you might have an agent that's more of an intelligent interface that is perhaps like bringing you new designs to look at, and you write a comment on each design. Instead of like talking to it in natural language, you can actually like do a little review like on a Google Doc where you write comments, and it does another pass through it bringing you things. And that feels more natural for humans to understand, hey, this is the function of this agent. All it does is bring me new designs and I comment on them, rather than having the distraction of a personality that may have arbitrary functionality underneath it.
I mean, you just critiqued Meta's whole AI model pretty hard there within that. But I do think you bring up a good point where we've really used other humans as our complete metaphor for AI, right? Like this smarter person that we know, or this like person who offers us free labor, or however else you want to do it, right? However else you want to embody that idea. And what you're saying, Sam, is like we're looking at an abstraction from that persona altogether within the future of interface and AI interface. Maybe not altogether, but significantly.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Well, I think that's one of it's a great point. I think ultimately we started with this text-based interaction model because I think it was familiar and very aligned to how the technology actually works.
Super empowering. Like an LLM was invented, of course you would talk to it.
Totally.
Right.
But I think what we're starting to see now is then actually much more native integrations of these technologies into the suites of products that people already use and love every day, but also that are much more aligned to the job that a user is trying to do. Like you can imagine if you're creating a presentation, or you're creating a social media post, or you're creating a video, the absolute pie in the sky ideal interface would be completely different and bespoke based on each of those.
Yeah.
You can imagine a world where actually the interface for interacting with these things is actually completely tailored to the person at the time that they're doing it.
I once thought about writing the story like the future is a million bajillion interfaces.
Yeah.
Right? Like something that is there for you every moment and sort of contextually adaptive. I don't know. We'll see, right? But with Slack, I think it's an interesting problem because to me, like the assistant, like the human persona for AI fits really naturally within sort of your existing like metaphor of the whole UI, right? Like it's a series of conversations and group rooms. So do you feel like you're going to lean into that or lean away from it?
Yeah, I mean it's dangerous, like anthropomorphizing agents, right? You like something, in my opinion at least, you should never do is, ask an agent for an opinion. You should be asking it for information, right? You should form your own opinions. So when you look at it, it can be really useful, right? You go to in Slack, you go to a thread with 50 to 100 messages. Someone says, "Hey, what do you think?" And you're like, well, Appreciate that. Thanks. So instead of having to go back and spend 20 minutes and not knowing when to stop reading when you have your answer, you can use an assistant or an agent in that case to give you just a quick little summary. That's great. That's giving you the data. You can look at the sources and make up your own mind. Yeah, I think when it gets really dangerous is, I mean, honestly, with deep research, I think it's extremely dangerous for, well, dangerous is the wrong word. I think people are using it wrong. Deep research isn't the end of the project, it's the beginning. So one thing we're focusing on in Slack is, right now if you spend, you have a whole day to work on a project and you spend 6 hours putting this doc together, searching the internet, searching all your sources, and you spend 2 hours collaborating on that doc, debating, trying to make a decision. That's skewed, right? That's not healthy. So what we're focusing on, if you use deep research the right way, the first hour of the day that doc is built, and you can spend 7 hours of that day collaborating with your coworkers, debating, really understanding your opinions based on the information you got from that research. So we're really focused on just optimizing that and making sure that we don't go the wrong way there. Because it's really easy, right? It's incredibly easy to be like, yep, that's the answer. I'm going to go ahead and ship that. Yeah. But I don't think that's the right way to do it. So.
I mean, you're almost outlining the problem rather than offering the solution with deep research as you see it, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think deep research is an interesting challenge, an opportunity within all these interfaces. I'm sure everybody's seen, like, we went from these instantaneous conversations, or you wait 30 seconds for a response, to basically every model, every company offering a model where, you could wait an hour, you could wait a day, and sort of get a deeper, more reasoned, report where literally an AI goes through many different decision paths, right? Like checks its own biases, attempts to reason in ways we think people reason. But one of these interfaces is more or less instantaneous, and one of them you have to wait on. And so, like, how are you thinking about that right now? Like, I mean, you mentioned, Greg, wanting to get that deep research report within the first hour of your day, but like, could you say, give me that report tomorrow to give somebody that deep research report? Like, are you willing to do that, or is that too slow?
No, I don't think that's too slow at all. Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think separating your deep work from your async work is healthy. I think mixing them is where we get, so yeah, I think that would be great.
I do think that distinction will disappear probably even this year, in the
Really?
sense that the speed at which the actual research process is happening will become incredibly fast. The distinction between agents that are thinking in the background and agents that are not will become somewhat arbitrary. What will be difficult, what will remain difficult, is running many parallel work streams in process and then reviewing the result. Basically, it may become arbitrarily fast to say, hey, I want to see 100 versions of this image. What will become difficult was then for you as an end consumer to say, hey, let me pick one. What do I think about that? What we think is the future will revolve around you having one core assistant who has the sole context on the work projects you're doing and your taste, and who helps you kind of with that decision-making process. So you may have a ton of agents doing work on your behalf in some space, and you may have your assistant who's kind of acting as your chief of staff and surfacing you like 2 or 3 that they think are well considered for you to give feedback on and keep iterating with.
That's wild. I mean, it's like your shadow, almost, right? That you're imagining, a little doppelganger. Why, without getting too technical, like, why do you think that wait will sort of disappear? Do you think it's arbitrary at this time that deep thinking takes longer? It's like cost load balancing on servers. Like, why will that process get so fast?
I think that you can see the trend in terms of like already when DeepSeek came out, kind of the Chinese version of the O1 models from OpenAI. Their speed in terms of their reasoning process was much faster, so the amount of tokens they can output per second has already increased. That will continue to keep happening, especially as chip architectures change.
Yeah, you don't think there's going to be a valley where everything gets slow again and then things get fast again. You just think it gets faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that there's always going to be a spectrum of things that you can do like super quickly, and then certain things that you're going to want to just spend a really long time thinking about. Just like as humans, I can say the capital of the U.S. much more quickly than I can tell you how to solve a math proof. I think there's always going to be reason that certain things will take longer, which I do think will actually reset a lot of what the human-computer interactions that we have to build. I think we're in an era of AI today where I ask the machine to do something, I sit and wait until it's done, and then I consume it. I think that the next world, similar to what Sam, you were mentioning, the AI will actually ask me questions when it needs input to actually help clarify and ultimately give me a range of options that then ultimately I apply my own, or I'm the arbiter of taste and decide what direction to go in.
And that's agentic, right? Like that's something like actively coming to you with like the next step.
That's right. And how are all of our tools going to change when, instead of us opening the tool when we want to use it, the tool has to tell us when it has something to do, right? And you just not end up with like thousands of emails and push notifications and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, it reminds me a lot, like, I began my career like working within video production and doing animation. And I will say, like, I remember when rendering took a long time, and like still does in like advanced Hollywood stuff, but nobody else waits for anything. Like Canva's a perfect
Opening a web
example
page,
of
you
that.
just have to wait 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like I remember like I loved like cutting a commercial with an animation because like I hit the render button, I had an hour off. It's like I went and got lunch. Like nothing I could do. But you're saying like AI is basically going to like close that gap. We have a little bit of time left, and what I would like to do is ask each of you to make a bet. I think an unexpected bet on how AI will show up within our platforms. And I think like if there's one thing that you think would be most surprising to people in 3 or 5 years about how they use the platforms of today and how they will change, what would that be?
I probably have, I don't know what I'm betting. What are we betting? Money? So, I've probably a rosier view than most, I think. I fundamentally think we'll have more time for collaboration, human-to-human connection. I think, if you look at it broadly, you're like, oh my God, everyone's just talking to AI all day. There's no humans. I don't think that's the case. I think, there's a few types of work. There's low-value work and there's high-value work. I think it'll take off, 95% of the low-value work. It'll give us the time to really spend on our high-value work, which oftentimes is interacting with other humans, which is collaborating. So I'm optimistic, and I think I'm probably even a little surprised by my own optimism. But I think that's the most surprising thing. I think that's what we'll see. So that's where I place my bet.
What about, I want to give you one more shot at that. We're going to come back around. I really mean like UX, superpowers. Like I sit down in the software and what can it do? Yeah, I hope it doesn't put us all out of work. I think we're all pretty bullish on AI becoming a sort of synthesizer we can play, right? That will just expand what we can do and hopefully keeps everyone involved in doing more incredible things. But I am wondering functionally, how will my life be different and how will AI empower that at work? So John?
I think that one of the biggest shifts will be when we really go about learning how to use tools to accomplish tasks to using tools to actually accomplish our goals. And I think that when we look back, it will be surprised about a time when you actually had to, jump between 3 or 4 pieces of software to accomplish one bigger thing that you're trying to do, instead of just being able to say what that thing is and actually then be guided along the process on doing it. And it doesn't matter whether you're a novice to software, whether you're an absolute pro, being able to actually have the right amount of control and creative expression over the output to actually get exactly what you're going for. I think that's a big shift that I believe will happen and that will be a breath of fresh air for all of us.
So you're saying software will sort of exist at a higher level.
That's right, yeah.
Where you will put your hopes and dreams or sort of like grander vision into it, and it will be empowered by many machines working together?
Yeah, absolutely. Just one of the things we talk about a lot internally at Canva is we went from a world of designing in a world of pixels, to designing in a world of objects with like elements. Then you can imagine being able to design at a level of concepts, which is kind of what you can do with AI and conversational AI today. What will it mean when you can actually design at a level of goals?
What problem do you imagine that could solve? Could you give me a goal you feel like could be solved in such a system?
Yeah, I would love if I'm, internally I'm launching a new product, being able to, write a vision doc for that product, go and actually get alignment with a lot of people on my team, getting their feedback on it, actually helping automatically draft a go-to-market document based on that with a pitch deck to train our sales team internally, a couple points of view on different marketing activations across different social media channels, and having that all kind of manifest.
I think you just described a lot of what Canva announced today, but I feel like we're there. Okay, but I'll give it to you. Sam?
Yeah, I guess, let's see. I have a couple bets, but I'll choose one, which is I think that a large percentage of people, and especially a large percentage of people sitting in this audience, will have started some side business that was enabled because an AI is largely running it and creating it for you. So many of you have, including for myself, like I love running, and like a thing I'll do for friends is kind of like write them a running training plan. if I could kind of do almost zero work on making an AI run coach app and putting that in the App Store and kind of talking to users and helping that, but kind of just continually like oversee production of the app on an ongoing basis, that's something I could see myself doing. So I imagine for many of you too, you maybe have like an idea or a side thing that you've thought about for a while, but you're just like, oh, I don't have enough time. There'd be like X like process that I have to manage going forward, and that'll become largely automatable with AI in a way where people are able to start monetizing more facets of themselves and the creativity and ideas and agency they all have in the world.
And you don't think that'll become so commoditized that it would then take value out of making your running app?
I mean, it's all about taste and kind of the special sauce you bring to it. So it's like everyone here is creative and kind of has their own artistic style of things they make. So there's going to be kind of this content creation in the form of applications and businesses, and this kind of more bespoke way that people I think will give a lot of agency to people.
Greg, I know you're going to kill me, but I do.
No, my first answer is too philosophical and emotional. I get it. I really like that one, though.
You were too concerned about
that's really
humanity. I'm just
insightful.
trying to get that work done.
All right, what do I think? Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that your first 2 hours of your day will be unrecognizable. You can say more buttons, less typing. You can say whatever phrase you want to say, but I think the current UI doesn't exist anymore in 5 years. I think there'll be a morning triage. I think maybe you want to do that through voice. Maybe you want to do that through whatever you choose. And I also think there'll be there's a pretty big gap between like cell and desktop and whiteboard and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of products integrate those. A lot of them do a good job, but there's not broadly used. I feel like I have different systems in my life at least. So I think those will converge. And I imagine I wake up in the morning and that's where I'll see it.
You just burned it all down. You just burned down all of software.
Burned it down.
I mean, I think that's interesting. The idea that the very user interface of today, you just don't think is going to scale reasonably. Is this a shared feeling on this panel?
I don't know if I agree as much. I do think voice will be and kind of conversation will be a universal interface, but I think people resonate around design as a shared experience. So it's the same reason that I don't necessarily want to watch like a personalized, real-time generated Netflix series, because I want to be like, ooh, White Lotus finale, like what's everyone thinking? Like you want the shared experience. So I think that will remain. There'll just be a lower barrier to creation, but I think people will love to work and work with other people's authorship and with people who've thought a lot about a given problem and how to solve it. They'll kind of resonate with the interfaces those people have designed.
What do you mean by that last part? Sorry, just really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, so take something like Slack, for example. You guys have spent years thinking about how to do a really well-designed conversational interface to communicate with your coworkers. If I were to say like, hey, build me a Slack clone tomorrow, I do feel like I don't want to devote as much time to, and I don't have as much of a strong opinion on how that product should be authored. So I don't have taste around coworker communication in the same way that you guys do as an organization. And I think that the people who kind of care about problems and have an opinion on how to execute them well are going to have a low barrier to creating and kind of monitoring these experiences.
Yeah.
But that I want to use the interfaces that those people create rather than something that's automatically generated for me without that sense of taste and expertise.
You're saying it democratizes like a little bit. It's interesting. Yeah.
Community designing shared platforms, essentially. More.
That's cool. That's good.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing Greg said, I think the space between things will disappear. But I do think that you'll still fundamentally need, opinionated, high taste tools for the various parts of your workflows that you care about. But I do think that there'll be a lot more ability to customize those to what your own experience is.
Opinionated tools.
Yeah.
I really like that packaging of it. Well, John, Sam, Greg, thank you. Thank you to the audience for being out here in the sun. I think it's fascinating. It sounds like life will really be different in 3 to 5 years. So I guess we'll be back here in 5 years and we'll all collect bets.
Collect the bets, yeah.
Yeah, collect the bets.
Excited. It's gonna be fun.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.